volume and listen. We bring a mix of news, entertainment, and sports to your lives.
Nationwide 90 FM's live and continuous coverage of the World Championships in Budapest, Hungary.
News and discussions week mornings.
Coming up in the news at 6 for this morning.
Entertainment in the afternoons, then news again in the evenings.
Nationwide news at this hour. Fired.
Also, tune into the entertainment and sports shows in the nights and on the weekends.
It is Boy Things After Dark right here on Nationwide 90 FM.
Everything is news, from current affairs and entertainment to sports, business, and other categories.
Nationwide 90 FM. This is Beanie Man. Give it to them. Zaga, Zen.
From every whisper to every commotion.
That's rubbish. The KSAMC cannot investigate itself.
Every news story unfolds here first at Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. Every sound is a story, and every story we share is news.
Ready to tackle that building project? Start right. Start here at H&L Rapid True Value for building supplies. The time by H&L Rapid True Value is
Nationwide time, 5 o'clock.
Interex Distributors presents the ultimate tile clearance sale. Transform your space for less. Dunrobin Plaza, 30 Dunrobin Avenue. The temperature by Interex Distributors is
29 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 30 out west in Montego Bay.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Roby-Ann Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
In Nationwide News at this hour, Senate opens the debate on the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority NARA bill.
And Senate approves amendments to the Cybercrimes Act.
Consumers urged to brace for increase in prices as Petrojam moves away from its $4.50 price cap on fuel.
Dr. Horace Chang says the current uniform worn by members of the JCF is designed to accommodate body-worn cameras.
Man killed in Friday morning's gun attack on the Mandela Highway was not the intended target.
In news from the rest of the world, Guyana president announces $3 billion boost for rice farmers.
Trump says he will hike tariffs on EU cars to 25%.
In sports, Jamaica to feature in all 6 events on opening day of the World Relays in Botswana on Saturday.
And later in our broadcast, in our cover story at 5:35, public sector workers are set to receive annual performance-based salary increments again after the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service and the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions reached an agreement on Wednesday. Its president, St. Patrice Ennis, will join us.
In the nation's business at 6:25, in a landmark ruling, the Supreme Court struck down the environmental permit granted to Bengal Development Limited to mine in the Dry Harbor Mountains in Discovery Bay, St. Anne. What are the possible implications of this ruling? We'll hear from the attorney who represented the residents, Michael Hilton, and lead claimant, Wendy Lee.
Taking you around the world at 6:45, thousands of South Africans marched in anti-immigration protests accusing illegal immigrants of taking away jobs, healthcare, housing, and public services. You'll hear more. And at 7, it's the comments section with Shalois Michael and Mahiri Stewart. This evening, they're asking, what's the longest shift you've ever worked? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio. And message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90 FM. All these and more as we take you home on air, Nationwide 90 FM, this Friday afternoon. It's the 1st of May, 2026.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
Now to the details. The Senate has begun debating over the highly discussed National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority NARA bill. The bill, which will establish an entity of the same name to lead rebuilding efforts in the wake of Hurricane Melissa, has already been the topic of intense discussion in the House of Representatives. In opening the debate in the Upper House, Minister of Education Dr. Dana Morris Dixon challenged many of the points raised in objection to the bill. Mahiri Stewart tells us more.
The National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority, NARA bill, was passed along party lines in the lower house earlier this week. The eyes now turn to the Senate, where there's likely to be a similar outcome. The opposition remains unconvinced that a body that will have access to sums in excess of $1 trillion is functioning with the appropriate oversight. In kicking off the debate, Government Senator Dr. Dana Morris Dixon stressed the importance of NARA in responding to a disaster and circumventing a bureaucracy plagued by roadblocks.
Now, Mr. President, if the existing machinery cannot consistently spend its annual capital allocation, then the question answers itself. Why do we need a NARA? That's the reason. A framework that cannot reliably deliver what is budgeted in normal times cannot be expected to coordinate and execute the post-Melissa reconstruction and resilience building program.
The single greatest criticism faced by the NARA bill is what's being seen as a lack of oversight and too much power concentrated in too few hands. Dr. Morris Dixon countered that argument, pointing out that NARA will have many accountability layers, including the Parliament and the Jamaica Reconstruction and Resilience Oversight Committee, JAMROC.
You have Cabinet, you have Auditor General, you have Parliament, you have PAC, you have PAC, you have Integrity Commission, you have JAMROC. I don't know what more we need. That's many layers of oversight. NARA CEO also will be held strictly accountable. Performance evaluation of the CEO will be conducted by the Cabinet Office with structured input from JAMROC as well as other stakeholders. Performance evaluations will be grounded in the achievement of clearly defined targets and measurable outcomes, not merely process compliance. The people of Jamaica will be able to judge through JAMROC's public reporting. JAMROC will be reporting to the people.
Dr. Morris Dixon also reminded the Senate that Jamaicans in the West are being left waiting for the critical assistance NARA will bring.
Let us not lose sight of what this debate is ultimately about. It is not about institutional design. It is not about governance theory. It is about the people of St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, every other parish that Melissa devastated. People who may not be following this Senate debate, but who are waiting for this country's institutions to match the resilience they themselves have already shown. This Senate has a responsibility to these people.
Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness has emphasized that there's a clear distinction between the work of the NARA and the Urban Development Corporation UDC. He was responding to critics who say the government should use the UDC to carry out the recovery drive from Hurricane Melissa instead of establishing NARA.
I read somewhere that the UDC should be the entity doing the work of NARA and that NARA is going to displace or diminish the UDC. Absolute rubbish. A symptom of the thinking that has led us into the quagmire that we are now. The UDC has a much broader mandate. And if we were to take the register of projects that we develop, that's not the UDC's specific mandate. And even if we were to say, UDC, you take up all of this, what about all the projects that you have ongoing already, which I'm struggling to get them out? So from just a pure technical point of view, we could not go and place these projects in any entity that currently exists.
The Prime Minister further explained that the NARA projects will be separate from those under the UDC.
The strategy is not to have NARA displace the regular operation of the economy. And the reason why we need an expedited system, a special pathway for the NARA projects, is that you don't want the NARA projects to come into competition with the normal operation of the economy. So NARA will not have an impact on the activities of UDC. But don't believe UDC will get away from my scrutiny.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness, he was addressing a UDC board retreat on Thursday.
The Senate on Friday approved a range of amendments to the Cybercrimes Act, including provisions which prescribe harsher punishments for perpetrators who target children. The government's Senate leader, Kamina Johnson-Smith, piloted the debate on the bill.
Mr. President, Clause 3 amends Section 4, and it does so by strengthening protection for minors by amending the penalty framework of Section 4 of the Act so that whereby access to any computer program or data held in a computer, an offense is committed against an individual under 18 years old, the Circuit Court may impose imprisonment for a term not exceeding 20 years, Mr. President. And the objective of this amendment is to communicate to the society at large and indeed to the judiciary that there is a policy position that is being supported by the legislature that cybercrimes committed against children must be treated more seriously and demonstrably so.
The proposed amendments tabled in early 2026 seek to strengthen penalties, improve investigative powers, and expand protections against emerging forms of online crime. The legislation proposes new measures to hold persons accountable for knowingly allowing their properties to be used to facilitate cybercrime activities, with prison sentences of up to 15 years attached to such offenses. Leader of Opposition Business in the Senate, Donna Scott Motley, commended a specific aspect of the revised bill.
This law really has moved us towards a more explicit standalone offense, which I think is important. When I looked at the section 9, which was seeking to amend, one of the requirements was that you had to demonstrate intent to harm. Now, there is no mens rea which is required under the law. What it is that it looks at the actus reus to say, did the person do this? And I think that is an excellent step in the right direction.
Donna Scott Motley, Leader of Opposition Business in the Senate.
Brace for price increases in the coming weeks and months as Petrojam moves away from its $4.50 price cap on fuel. The move is expected to impact almost every facet of Jamaican consumption, including necessities like food and transportation, as businesses are forced to adjust. At least two players in Jamaica's economic supply chain are anticipating things will be tough in the short term as the conflict in the Middle East continues to negatively impact global oil prices. Siobhan Campbell tells us more.
Petrojam has already signaled it will move away from its $4.50 per litre weekly cap on fuel price movements. The cap acted as a buffer between volatile global oil prices and what motorists actually pay at the pump. Over a 4-week period between mid-March and early April, the true increase in transport fuel costs averaged nearly $50 per litre. This saw only $18 of that pass to consumers, with Petrojam racking up losses of more than $1.3 billion in the process. When the buffer is removed, prices at the pumps will increase. But the pain will not stop there, as everything that moves on Jamaican roads depends on fuel. When the cost of moving goods increases, businesses must either absorb or pass that cost on to consumers. CEO of the Seprod Group, Richard Pandohi, says the company is now in a wait-and-see mode to see what, if any, price adjustments will be necessary.
The reality is that we don't know what the release of the cap is going to entail. If you notice, this week, Petrojam actually had a price reduction. So, it's really a function of what they're buying at versus world market. So, we fully understand why they want to reflect the realities up or down, and therefore, no real issue with them. Obviously, it could be painful if it's going up. But let's say that, at this stage, we just have to watch the cost and see what happens.
No decision regarding the fuel cap has been made yet. But Pandohi notes that energy costs were already a major constraint in the best of times.
Energy has always been a very high component of our cost structure, and we have always been, trying to deal with that, whether through our own energy plants or solar systems, etc. But at this stage, there's no plan in terms of saying come May 1, energy cap remove and we'll get moved price by this. We have no idea. Hopefully, let's hope for the Jamaican public's sake and all of our sake that prices actually start going the other way and Petrojam buys at a price that can afford to keep the price stable and keep going down.
Lower-income households that already spend the largest share of their earnings on food and basic necessities are expected to most feel the squeeze. Food and non-alcoholic beverages account for the single largest portion of the Statistical Institute's consumer price basket. This makes up more than 35 cents of every dollar the average household spends. Then there is the cost of electricity. Jamaica generates the majority of its electricity using liquefied natural gas, LNG. Like oil, the conflict in the Middle East has disrupted LNG supplies. The Jamaica Public Service Company has already put customers on notice that higher fuel charges are coming in the months ahead. President of the Medium, Small and Micro Enterprise Alliance, Antoinette Hamilton, says the simple law of supply and demand will see Jamaicans face a stark reality in coming days.
The forces of demand and supply, that will always cause businesses to respond. So if prices increase, then we'll have to expect an increase in prices as well from our businesses, because they won't be able to absorb all of the rising costs. While they may try to absorb some, what I'm getting from them is that consumers should also brace for increases from small businesses as well in response to increasing input costs that may come from suppliers here in Jamaica or as a result of increasing transportation costs.
Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
You're listening to Nationwide News at 5. More news after these.
You're listening to Nationwide 90 FM. The time is
5:14.
Continuing the news, Works Minister Robert Morgan says the Cave to Kentucky roadway in Westmoreland was never submitted as a priority for repairs under the Spark program. He's pushing back against claims by East Westmoreland Member of Parliament Dr. Dayton Campbell that the road remains undone despite being approved under the flagship program.
Just to be clear, I have proof that the road submitted by the Member of Parliament as his priority under Spark program does not include the road that the persons are now protesting for, that he is saying he is in solidarity with them. So it's a bit interesting and intriguing that on one hand, he will seek to get roads repaired out of the 10 that is not this road. But then when pressure comes, he seeks to say that I as minister must fix the road when this road was never his priority in the first place.
Robert Morgan, Minister with responsibility for works. The MP adds that Spark lacks the proper budgetary management to adequately repair the roads in the constituency. But in a release on Friday, Minister Morgan says while he understands the plight of the residents, Dr. Campbell's criticism is misleading and appears rooted in political opportunism. For context, the minister says the roads the MP identified were Lennox Big Woods, Fustic Grove, Orange Hill, Ashton to Leamington, Argyle Mountain, and Gordon to Congress. Still, Morgan adds that the ministry and the National Works Agency will continue to assess the Cave to Kentucky corridor and other affected roads in eastern Westmoreland to determine the appropriate intervention.
National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang says the current uniform worn by members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, is designed to accommodate body-worn cameras. Dr. Chang sought to clarify the matter after dismissing a media report on his comments at a pipeline project event in St. James as inaccurate. According to the minister, he did not indicate that the current JCF uniform is incompatible with body-worn cameras. Instead, Dr. Chang notes that the former pinstriped uniforms worn by police officers in earlier periods were not designed to accommodate modern policing tools such as body-worn cameras.
The uniform that was given to all the British police when they carried them was just a pinstripe thing that it couldn't carry any of the things that they asked them to carry on. It was just a hot piece of heavy lift that them put them in. Don't design anything. Had no space for camera. I would have put on and spin on and they said the policeman face. They said the policeman hide. So we gave back the cameras and we went out and the police officers found a uniform that you see that everybody liked, this navy blue uniform that the wearers have. All the attachments and the belt that can carry non-lethal activity, including a camera. Better go there.
Dr. Horace Chang, National Security Minister. Dr. Chang says the current navy blue uniform is designed to meet the operational demands of modern law enforcement. He posits that the uniforms allow the police to integrate essential equipment into their daily duties. These include reinforced utility belts, attachment points, and adaptable fabric structures that support the secure use of body-worn cameras.
Nationwide News understands that the man killed in Friday morning's brazen gun attack on the Mandela Highway was not the intended target. The shooting, which occurred at about 7:12 a.m. at the Mandela Highway entrance to Portmore, left a businessman hospitalized and his driver dead after gunmen opened fire during peak hour traffic. Robin Williams reports.
Nationwide News understands that the injured man, a prominent businessman with operations in downtown Kingston, Halfway Tree, and Spanish Town, was the intended target of the attack. Sources say a hit was taken out on the businessman following a dispute involving an employee who allegedly stole millions of dollars from him. That employee was reportedly held and beaten between Wednesday and Thursday. Sources say gunmen traveling on a motorcycle were then dispatched on Friday to intercept the businessman's vehicle and carry out the attack. Dashcam footage of the incident shows a silver Ford Transit van traveling from Kingston, stopping at a traffic light. Two men on a motorcycle pull alongside the driver's side and the pillion rider opens fire, discharging about 9 shots. The occupants of the car with the dashcam were heard reacting.
Ride him down now. What's the matter when ride him down? We can't control the car now. What's the matter ride him down?
Just a minute. Just a minute. Mr. Gentles, I don't know what is happening today.
It's a bystander that man can't get out. Now you mean I can't let it jump out?
The van subsequently runs off the road onto a low median. The businessman, who was shot multiple times, remains in serious condition in hospital. His driver later died from injuries sustained. Robeanne Williams for Nationwide News.
Nationwide News understands that dancehall star 450 was interviewed by the police on Thursday and released. Law enforcement sources say he was questioned by investigators from the St. Andrews Central Police Division in relation to a recent shooting incident at the Big Wall Soca party at the Ranny Williams Entertainment Center. The incident resulted in vlogger Jay Frey and a member of 450's team, music producer Javi Ambassador, being hit with gun charges. 450, whose given name is Tristan Escoffrey, is reportedly not a suspect in the investigation. But he was called in by police as they moved to complete the case file in relation to the charges against Jay Frey and Javi. 450 was reportedly accompanied to the Halfway Tree police station by prominent defense attorney Christian Tavares Finson. The entertainer is reportedly denying any wrongdoing. 450 is known for songs including No Way I Do, Crosses, and Save My Life.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
More than $3 billion has been allocated by the Guyanese government to support rice farmers. The announcement was made by President Dr. Irfan Ali during a consultation with farmers at the Arthur Chung Conference Center. The cash grant is aimed at strengthening the country's rice industry amid ongoing global economic pressures. As part of the immediate relief, farmers cultivating fewer than 50 acres will receive $15,000 per acre.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he will increase tariffs charged on cars and trucks imported from the European Union to 25% in a sharp escalation of trade tensions with Brussels. Trump accused the EU of not complying with the U.S.'s trade deal. In response, the European Commission says it will keep its options open to protect the EU's interest, adding that the EU was adhering to its commitments but was also seeking clarity from the U.S. around its commitments.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, Senate opens the debate on the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority NARA bill.
A framework that cannot reliably deliver what is budgeted in normal times cannot be expected to coordinate and execute the post-Melissa Reconstruction and Resilience building program.
Consumers urged to brace for increase in prices as Petrojam moves away from its $4.50 price cap on fuel.
Man killed in this morning's gun attack on the Mandela Highway was not the intended target. I'm Robeanne Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
Join the Nationwide Family Club at patreon.com/Nationwide News Network. News next. The headlines at 6.
That we should be together. The true beauty of music is that it connects people. It carries a message. It speaks to you. It changes you. And that's exactly what we do just for you every Sunday as we take you to Urban Paradise, 9:10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Urban Paradise is our weekly musical journey that will serve up 110 glorious minutes of positive storytelling through music, mixed in with inspirational features to provoke thought and to heal the soul.
Like a dream come true, just wanna be with you.
So join me, Diane Ashton Smith, this and every Sunday, 9:10 a.m. to 11 a.m. here on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media. Urban Paradise, opening our hearts, connecting to others.
Sports at 5 is brought to you by Total Tools. Total Tools, every tool, every trade.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. Now, the eyes of the global athletics community will be fixed squarely on the Botswanan capital, Gaborone, this weekend when it hosts the 8th World Relays at the country's national stadium, and it starts on Saturday morning, Jamaica time. Alric Swaby sets up the meet.
Jamaica will be involved in all 6 relay heats on Saturday's opening day, which gets underway with the mixed 4x100 meters starting at 7:21 a.m. Jamaica will run from heat 3 with Akeem Blake handing over to Tina Clayton and Kadrian Golson on the third leg, and Atia Clayton on anchor. The top 2 in each of the 3 heats and the next 2 fastest times will qualify for the final and the World Championships in Beijing, China next year. The mixed 4x400 meters will be at 7:40 a.m. with Jamaica running from 2 with the likes of the Netherlands, Poland, China, Nigeria and Japan. The women's 4x100 meters will follow at 8:05 a.m. with Jamaica battling Botswana, France, Nigeria and Belgium in heat 3 for one of the 2 automatic spots. Olympic double sprint champion Elaine Thompson-Herah told a press conference on Friday that despite the strength and depth of the Jamaican squad, the only ambition on Saturday is to get into the final.
World record is something that I don't really penetrate much on. Once we get the good weather, the good exchange, a good baton pass, I think anything is capable on that day. And I don't think we're looking at a world record right now. If it comes, it comes. But we just want to have a fun day. Exchange is good, baton is passed, we go to the line safe. I think that's an important part of it right now, but I don't think world record is in the book right now. It's just good to have fun and to qualify.
The 33-year-old sprinter acknowledged she is still working her way back to peak condition following recent challenges.
I'm feeling good. I don't think I'm where I want to be yet. I'm being patient with myself. It's an off-season for us, not a championship, which we have Commonwealth. But for me, particularly, I'm just taking it step by step, not rushing anything, not applying no pressure. Once the pain is gone, Elaine is capable of doing anything. I ran a couple of days ago. It felt great. Feel like I haven't done anything pretty much. And I think I have a lot more.
The men's 4x100 meters is set to go off at 8:37 a.m. with Jamaica in heat 2, alongside Spain, Germany, Canada and Belgium. The women's mile relay is scheduled for 8:55 with Jamaica in heat 3, while the men's equivalent will go off at 9:05, Jamaica running out of heat 2. Alric Swaby reporting for Nationwide Sports.
Thank you very much, Alric Swaby. Well, the World Athletics President, Lord Sebastian Coe, says the organization will not strangle innovation. And this follows the debate surrounding the so-called super shoe, which allowed the Kenyan megastar, Sebastian Sawe, become the first man to run a competitive marathon in under 2 hours. The 31-year-old won Sunday's London Marathon in 1 hour, 59 minutes and 30 seconds, writing himself into history and breaking a barrier once thought by many to be impossible. Sawe, Ethiopia's Yomi Kachelja, who also ran under 2 hours, he finished finished 10 seconds behind Sawe, and Sigat Safesa, who set a new world record time as the winner of the women's race, all wore the Adidas Adizero Adiopro Evo 3 shoes in London. Sawe thanked Adidas for making what he said were the best shoes he had worn, particularly highlighting how very light and stable they are. The first super shoe to weigh under 100 grams, Adidas claimed their technology improves running economy by 1.6%. Tournament director for the Caribbean Premier League, Michael Hall, revealed that the Jamaica Kingsmen will have the right to select the first 3 players in the upcoming draft to bolster the squad with the local talent. The draft for the 2026 edition is set for May 15.
Because they're a new team coming into the league, we are giving the Kingsmen an opportunity to make first 3 selections of the draft. And with those first 3 selections, they can pick any Jamaican player who has been registered for the draft. Okay? When they pick these 3 players, they can put them in any open salary slot, right? You know, the squads are 17 persons, listed from 1 to 17, and each slot has a particular salary, highest at number 1 and lowest, at 17. If they pick these players, and the player was a member of a team from last year, where they put those players, they will have to make sure that their salary is no less than what they made in 2025.
And under the new rules, each franchise is allowed 17 players, and that's 9 West Indies senior players, 5 overseas-based players, and 3 breakout league players. Of course, Michael Hall has more to say, but you've got to wait until our major sportscast at 6:05. To hear the rest. Continue with football. Defending champions Fraser's Whip. Well, they're expected to maintain their dominance when they travel to face Mile Gully in the Jamaica Women's Premier League on Saturday to Mile Gully Community in Manchester. Fraser's Whip have been in imperious form of the season, setting comfortably atop Zone B and the overall standings in the Women's League. They've got 24 points. It's a maximum 24 points from their 8 games played so far. Their opponent, Mile Gully, they have struggled to find consistency, and currently they are 5th in Zone B. They've only got 4 points. In Zone A, the leaders, Arnett Gardens, will take on the second-place team, Cavalier, in what promises to be a cracker of a game over at the Alpha Institute. As for Proven Girls, will host UA Women at York Sports Complex, while Real Mona will take on Wi-Fi United, that game to be played at Merle Grove High School. Other fixtures will see Los Perfectos going up against Relmo Bay, while Federal United will take on the Springer United team. And all the games are set to kick off at 3:30. And finally, in sports at this time, Leeds United, well, they've all but confirmed their status for the English Premier League for next season. They were in imperious form today. They defeated, of course, the team from Burnley by 3-1, and Burnley, they're already relegated. That game played on Friday at Ellen Road, and the win move leads up to 14th in the standings. They've got 43 points, and as I say, they're pretty safe. Tomorrow, Arsenal can move 6 points clear at the top of the standings. They'll be hosting Fulham in a London derby at the Emirates, kicking off at 11:30 a.m. Jamaica time. A victory for the Gunners will see them moving up to 76 points, and of course, it would mean that they've played 2 more games than their fellow title chasers, Manchester City, who will not play again until next week. Now, the Gunners, elsewhere, Brentford will take on West Ham United, who are still fighting for survival in the Premier League. That game is an all-London clash, Brentford and West Ham. Newcastle United are set to take on Brighton and Hove Albion in a fixture that could have implications on European qualification spots, while Wolverhampton Wanderers from the Midlands will take on Sunderland as the teams continue their push for crucial points across the table. These 2 teams have different permutations going into the game on Saturday. And that will do it for sport. We're going to be back at 6:05 for our main sportscast. Alric Swaby will be your presenter.
Sports at 5 was brought to you by Total Tools. Total Tools, every tool, every trade.
For all your custom framing, printing, graphic design, and purchase of art, Make It Frame Art Jamaica Limited, serving you for over 40 years. The time by Frame Art Jamaica is
5:33.
It's the weekend and the youth are taking over the airwaves. Yes, we are the new voices and faces of the Talk Up You radio show. The voice of the Jamaican youth right here on Nationwide 90 FM.
After a busy week of work and school, come and wine with Jamaica's #1 youth radio show.
We're bringing you entertainment, fun facts, and staying true to youth development and advocacy.
Catch the action each and every Saturday as we roll out buzzy segments. What say you?
Youth for chat.
Life skills.
Global Connect. And Bust the Youth. That's the Talk Up Youth radio show. Saturdays 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM.
Talk Up Youth, Miss Effie.
Talk Up Youth. Don't miss it.
The news cycle doesn't end on Friday. It needs perspective. That's why every Sunday at midday, Nationwide 90 FM presents The Week That Was. A clear, informed review of the top stories that shaped the past week. What really mattered and what lies ahead. No noise, no theatrics, just analysis, context, and clarity. The Week That Was. Sundays at 12 p.m. Understand the news before the week begins. Only on Nationwide 90 FM, a new revolution in media.
Not a mercy. This one is very classic, dedicated to all the schoolers who are taking it.
If you've ever struggled to pass an exam, then you'll know that students today are under great pressure to get good grades and secure qualification needed to move on to higher education. The problem is that too many students are struggling alone and could really benefit from connecting with hardworking teachers and other bright students in other parts of the country and the region. Join me, Dennis Brooks, this and every Friday evening from 8 to 9, with a repeat on Saturday morning from 8 to 9. For the A-Team, a study group on radio, my team of teachers, students, and experts will break down the syllabus, giving you information, tips, and past paper questions that will help you get top grades in your upcoming exams. Follow us on Facebook Live and on Twitter and be a part of the community. It's the A-Team. Fridays at 8 p.m. with a repeat at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. It's your free extra class on radio and social media. And it's right here on Nationwide 90 FM, the revolution in media.
Good afternoon, listeners and viewers. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on this Friday. It's time for the cover story, and I'm your host, Siobhan Campbell. I hope this Friday finds you well. But to get into the business of the afternoon, one of those sticking points between the public sector unions and the Ministry of Finance seems to have now been ironed out, with public sector workers set to receive annual performance-based salary increments again. This after the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service and the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions, JCTU, reached an agreement just this Wednesday. The increments, which include seniority allowances where applicable, will kick in during the 2026-2027 financial year. Full details will be outlined in a ministry circular due on Monday, May 4. Well, annual salary increments were frozen in November 2022 to allow the government's major compensation restructuring exercise to roll out. The Ministry of Finance says with that reform now completed as of March 31st last year, the path was clear to resume normal progression. The JCTU had previously insisted that increment movements were not a new benefit but a deferred obligation from the 2022-2025 restructuring, and it's one the Confederation says came without any retroactive payments to workers. With the issue of increments now settled, the way is also paved to settle the wider wage negotiations for the 2025-2028 contract period, which still remains unresolved. The Ministry of Finance says it remains committed to concluding those discussions as soon as possible. It says, while several items have already been agreed, efforts continue to resolve outstanding matters from the compensation restructuring exercise. Well, to discuss this further, we are now joined by the JCTU's president, that's St. Patrice Ennis. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
It's good to hear from you. So just to get your reaction to this news, now that you and the Ministry of Finance have settled this niggling point of the performance increments, how do you feel and how do your members feel at this moment?
Well, we had always said that the government, with its unilateral action, had wrongly frozen the increment, and we had always argued that the government had no such authority. We had pointed to the public service regulation that stipulates that an increment can only be deferred, suspended, or withheld by the Governor General, acting on the recommendation of the Services Commission. And they give the conditions under which that could be done: lack of efficiency, unsatisfactory service or conduct, failure to pass a requisite examination conditional to the grant of the officer's increment. None of those things were in place. None of those things took place. What just happened is that the government one day get up and said increments were frozen, and we didn't accept that. So we're glad now that that is behind us. At least we can focus on the real matters at hand instead of one of these unnecessary manufactured crises that we have.
Yes, and just to make sure, this matter of the performance increments, it's going forward. Is there any aspect of it that will be retroactive?
Well, yes. For the period that it was suspended, it would be retroactive. The 22 from 2022
to 2025. Yes.
Yes, it would be retroactive. What would when we say retroactive, it's we would just have to say exactly what that was, the 2.5, because that's the sum of the annual increment. And what is going to happen with respect to how it is paid, because it was suspended and most persons would not have been doing the evaluation to assess persons' performance. No, we would just have to pay to everybody who would have possibly be eligible to qualify for such an increment.
So the devil will be in the details going forward.
Well, I don't expect no devil.
All right, understood. And then just to check now, the matter of the increments now, we can say, based on what comes out May 4 in that circular that the ministry promised, we can put that aside. What is left under the public sector restructuring now to be settled?
Well, there are still a number of things that are left under the public sector restructuring. Some persons, we still have anomalies where the supervisor and the supervisee are, either on the same level. We are here of cases where one is being paid above the other. The supervisee is being paid more than the supervisor. Those are being rectified as we speak, where they are reported to the transformation unit. Persons still complain that the gap between them is not sufficient. So there are problems to solve there. We know that the government had announced that over the 3 years of the 22 to 25 period, persons should move in terms of their salary by no less than 20%. That has not been observed in all cases. Very little, but still those exist. And we are trying to work through a lot of those things. I know this problem exists in the Maritime Authority of Jamaica. We're still discussing things with the TIU unit where that is concerned, and persons are still disgruntled as a result of that. But there are other sections too that we still have to do some reclassification of certain entities. So yes, there are still aspects of the compensation review restructuring exercise that has not been completed as we speak.
And in terms of progress towards those issues, how is the discussions going between the unions and the Ministry of Finance?
Well, it depends on who you ask. When you take certain remember the government is we have central government and we have the public bodies.
Yes.
Largely in the public bodies, especially those unionized, that process has not been totally completed. In central government, more or less, the process has been completed, but we still have some of the very issues that we speak of. The Ministry of Finance may say that these are isolated events. Nevertheless, it affects persons' lives, and we still have to work through it. But I would say in the majority of cases, I think it is safe to say issues arising from the compensation review, restructuring, have been resolved. But for those persons and entities where we still have outstanding matters, it is indeed a problem for the affected workers.
And what has been the explanation for why those matters still remain a sticking point, as you said, in relation to the public bodies? Is it that they are waiting better particulars or guidance from the central government? Why is it that it seems that the central government issues are moving ahead a pace while the public bodies are having more of a crisis? Well, let me not use the word crisis, it's having more of an issue. One of the things is the entire restructuring. For many of the public bodies, some of them weren't on a scale before. Some of them, it was aligned. Because one of the things that the government is trying to do is bring everybody under one universal structure. Yes. So you're talking about over 100, probably 30,000 people with over 100 different public bodies and organizations and so on. That is a massive task. And then at the end of it, the various public bodies can have a reclassification, restructuring exercise to correct some of those outstanding issues. That is also where I think most of the entities have not completed that exercise. I know that is the case with Petrojam. I know it is with the Port Authority. I know it is Maritime. I know it is with several of them. Are yet to complete that exercise. But that is and for each of them, they have to get the approval from the Ministry of Finance. And if you ignore the unit of the Ministry of Finance, it's not a very big unit. And so it takes time. Please stay with us, St. Patrice Ennis. We're going to shift after this break towards a matter of the wage negotiations now that are still ongoing between the various public sector unions and the government. But that's after the break. Please stay with us.
Visit Marshall's Pharmacy, Greater Portmore, for all your prescription needs, gifts, personal care, household, and stationery items. The temperature by Marshall's Pharmacy, Greater Portmore is...
It's 29 degrees Celsius here in the capital city, Kingston, and it's 30 out west in Montego Bay.
Is your investment idling? At LaSalle's Employees and Partners Cooperative Credit Union, we know the power of compounding. With Compounder, your medium-term goals grow stronger every month. No debate. Earn a whopping 4.5% offer rate over 12 months. Start with a minimum of $200,000 and watch your money multiply with the compounding effect. Growth isn't just steady, it's exponential. Call 876-923-5480 or visit www.lasallescreditunion.com. LaSalle's Employees and Partners Cooperative Credit Union, the friendly financial institution of choice.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies, including plugs, switches, panel boards, and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer, and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
Welcome back, listeners, viewers. We're talking about the public sector wage negotiations, which are still ongoing between various unions and the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service. One of those niggling points, one of those things that had spilled over from the restructuring exercise, which was completed in May 31 of last year, was the matter of performance-based increments. We heard from a missive from the Ministry of Finance just yesterday that matter has now been settled. That matter should be now behind us going forward, which paves the way for the government to focus alongside the unions on the matter of the 2025 to 2028 wage negotiations contract period. In order to discuss this now, we have with us the president of the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions, that's St. Patrice Ennis. So, just to give us an understanding, St. Patrice, where is the government versus the union in terms of coming together on settling this matter of the 2025-2028 contract period negotiations?
2025 to 2028. Where we use fiscal year 25 to 26, fiscal year 26 to 27.
Yes.
The 28 is really the government's position. That's not our position. We served a 2-year claim. The government made us a 3-year offer. We're not saying that we wouldn't give consideration, or we're not giving consideration to that. But that is not our position at the moment.
Understood.
So, right. So just to make that clear. But the government has offered, as you perhaps would have known, 7% over the 3-year period, 2% in year 1 and 2.5% in the subsequent years.
Yes.
We of course, have not reached an agreement. And why point starts with the salary? Because the salary is the one item that affects everybody. It's a universal item. I mean, you can talk about meal and taxi, you can talk about uniform, you can talk about traveling, but none of those items affect everybody. The one item that affects all, which we call a universal item, is salary. So, a lot of our emphasis has been on that. To date, we are yet to find a common position on it. We met on Thursday, I think that was yesterday, and we have agreed to meet again on Monday, where we can look at the numbers, look at what is in the budget presentation, the contingency fund. We know that $42.8 billion has been set aside to treat with salaries and outstanding payments. We're asking the government to, we will sit down with the government to look at those numbers to see whether there's any fiscal space to improve the offer that is on the table. That work is yet to be done. We intend to start that process on Monday. And when we examine that and score that, then we go from there to see whether we can have some creative ways of coming to some form of settlement, because we must settle eventually. How we get there is another discussion, but we will actively be looking at how we can dissect those numbers. What is there in that $42.8 billion? The minister mentioned some things, over time and so on. But, it is to cover other arrears. But when we look at the fiscal policy paper, it mentions to treat with salaries and outstanding salaries. And that is what we are going to look at and see whether there's fiscal space to improve the government offers. If not, then we may have to find other creative ways. The other burning issue, which I believe can lead to an overall breakdown of this whole negotiation, I'll just put it out there, is the government's position to modify the duty concession with respect to public sector workers. Our traveling officers, I think there's about 22,000 traveling officers. I think this was not necessary, particularly at the time when we are negotiating. Now, if we serve a claim and we ask for $2, and then in the course of the negotiation, then the government is going to adjust or modify part of our compensation system, then what naturally would follow is that we have to revisit our entire claim, because we had premised our argument on the fact that this is what we are getting now, and this is how we seek to improve it. Now, the government has introduced this element, which is a unilateral position on their part, to modify our duty concession. And that is something that we had asked the minister to restore, and we hope that is a position that will be taken going forward.
Before we get to the matter of the duty concession, St. Patrice, there is I want to start from here, because I think a lot of Jamaicans outside of the public sector, and they look at these negotiations and they see a very almost adversarial relationship between the union heads and the Ministry of Finance because of, I want to say, the actions and statements of some more vociferous of your number. But I want to settle with the Jamaican people. I'll give you the opportunity that the unions are seized of the fact that the country is going through a difficult time and that there has to be concessions on both sides. Correct?
What I would say to you is that if there is to be concession on both sides, then you would talk to us. But let me roll out the scenario for you. In my employment letter with the government as a traveling officer, you said I'm entitled to this. This is part of my terms and condition of employment. I'm entitled to a duty concession, 20%. I'm entitled to this. I'm entitled to a subsistence allowance, and this is my salary, and it will be affected in this way going forward. No, I don't believe it can ever be correct that overnight somebody just get up and change what is in my contract that I'm entitled to without no discussion.
And you're referring to the duty concession specifically.
Right, and then you're asking me to make sacrifice. That cannot be a reasonable argument, particularly at a time when we are sitting around the table negotiating. There are other things you could have looked at. There are myriad things that you and persons it is not in their employment contract that you could look at. You could look at taxing, many other things. But why come and trouble the public sector worker? Benefit, or what, if you don't wish to call it a benefit, part of what is terms and condition of employment, without any dialogue, without any consultation. I don't believe it can be reasonably argued that the public sector workers have not made tremendous sacrifice to get the country in the position that they are in now with respect to the massive reduction in the debt to GDP ratio. We could not and would not have had an agreement with the IMF if the public sector workers wasn't on board and was holding to wage constraint year after year after year until Dr. Nigel Clark said, look, we cannot continue to do this anymore because we cannot retain the staff. The Prime Minister spoke about not having the qualified staff at them. I mean, he spoke about that publicly. He changed the leadership there. He said we didn't have the requisite competence there to do what he wanted to do in a time of crisis. You think you're going to retain them if you don't pay them in this global economy when people can move from country to country, industry to industry. So it was a necessary move. And so to tinker with that again is bringing us back to square one from a place where we thought that we had left.
We're running out of time, and I see that this matter of the vehicle concession is a bit of a sticking point with the unions then. But you said there were other options in terms of weighing those options as to what the government could have done, don't you believe that the vehicle concession being where salaries have been moved to in terms of their parity to the private sector now, I'm not saying it's exact parity, but closer to what the private sector would be offering, don't you think that's the least impactful way to balance a budget in such a difficult time as the vehicle concession? Or is it that the public sector units are really, really, really against this idea of adjusting it?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Look, you're talking about 1 point something billion. How much? This is 1 point billion. That is what the government intends to recover from this.
Yes.
1 billion. You mean to say that you couldn't find that anywhere else?
But St. Patrice, I don't want to interrupt you, but they are finding it elsewhere. They're taxing tourism. They're trying to find a digital service tax. They are looking for it elsewhere. They simply ask that the public sector also chip in a little bit.
No. This is not part of somebody's employment contract. It is totally different. You're talking about, you're talking, this is what I come and this is what I signed up with you to work for, and how I deem to be compensated and how I must perform my duties.
Yes.
I am sure if tomorrow morning you go to work and you find something that you signed up for in your contract, that it was just taken away to say that we need to save the company, would that sit well with you?
I guess that's a very serious question, St. Patrice. But I still ask, still ask, if you sat down with the government tomorrow.
You notice why you can't answer that question?
But I'm not here to answer that question on your behalf, St. Patrice. What I'm saying is, when you sit down with the government at your next negotiation table, is it just a hard stop? We will not settle with this vehicle concession going away. Well, not going away, being adjusted. I don't want to give the impression it's going away.
It is a hard stop for me. And I'm glad that, your management know that you are one who is willing to sacrifice should any issue come with the company.
Well, sacrifices have to be made. I don't want that point to be lost.
That you are willing to make.
But I don't want that point to be lost. I don't want our listeners to go away with this belief that the public sector is somehow against the government, etc., and etc., vice versa. Do we accept that St. Patrice, please, just answer this question. I want us to leave on a positive note. Do we at least accept that there has to be some concessions on both sides as we navigate such a difficult crisis?
I am saying, my brother, I do not accept that. I think if you want to have a serious conversation, you come around the table and you discuss that. You don't do that and then you say, look, I must be reasonable. That's not the way things are done.
Oh, very well.
And I don't think anybody reasonable could accept it.
Very well.
And I think we can deal. And I don't think we were on a bad note. I think we were on an excellent note.
I hope so as well. And I do hope that when going into those negotiations with the government, you maintain this kind of positive attitude, because I think the country will benefit from some agreement coming out at the end of this tunnel and as soon as possible. Would we agree with that?
At the end of the day, we must settle, and I've always preferred a settlement that can be had between the parties, that instead of one that is imposed. And I'm confident, as we always do, we will have a settlement. It's just at that time it is difficult, and the minister is so minded. I must say that we appreciate the minister's approach in all of this, and she brings a very calm demeanor to the thing. So we are trying to work through it.
That's St. Patrice Ennis. He's the president of the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions. Thank you for joining us, St. Patrice. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
The headlines are upon us, listeners, and we come back at 6:25.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is...
It's 2 minutes after 6.
Nationwide Headlines at 6.
Good evening with the headlines at 6. I'm Mahiri Stewart. Nationwide News understands the man killed in Friday morning's brazen gun attack on the Mandela Highway was not the intended target. The shooting, which occurred at about 12 minutes after 7 on the Mandela Highway entrance to Portmore, left a businessman hospitalized and his driver dead after gunmen opened fire during peak hour traffic. Sources say a hit was taken out on the businessman following a dispute involving an employee who allegedly stole millions of dollars from him. That employee was reportedly held and beaten between Wednesday and Thursday. Sources say the gunmen traveling on a motorcycle were then dispatched on Friday to intercept the businessman's vehicle and carry out the attack. Dashcam footage of the incident shows a silver Ford Transit van traveling from Kingston stopping at a traffic light. Two men on a motorcycle pull alongside the driver's side and the pillion rider opens fire, discharging about 9 shots. The businessman, who was shot multiple times, remains in serious condition. His driver later died from injuries sustained. The Senate has begun debating over the highly discussed National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority, NARA bill. The bill, which will establish an entity of the same name to lead rebuilding efforts in the wake of Hurricane Melissa, has already been the topic of intense discussion in the House of Representatives. In kicking off the debate, Government Senator Dr. Dana Morris Dixon stressed the importance of NARA in responding to a disaster and circumventing a bureaucracy plagued by roadblocks.
Now, Mr. President, if the existing machinery cannot consistently spend its annual capital allocation, then the question answers itself. Why do we need a NARA? That's the reason. A framework that cannot reliably deliver what is budgeted in normal times cannot be expected to coordinate and execute the post-Melissa reconstruction and resilience building programs.
The single greatest criticism faced by the NARA bill is what's being seen as a lack of oversight and too much power concentrated in too few hands. Dr. Morris Dixon countered that argument, pointing out that NARA will have many accountability layers, including the Parliament and the Jamaica Reconstruction and Resilience Oversight Committee, JAMROC.
You have Cabinet, you have Auditor General, you have Parliament, you have PAC, you have PAC, you have Integrity Commission, you have JAMROC. I don't know what more we need. That's many layers of oversight. NARA CEO also will be held strictly accountable. Performance evaluation of the CEO will be conducted by the Cabinet Office with structured input from JAMROC as well as other stakeholders. Performance evaluations will be grounded in the achievement of clearly defined targets and measurable outcomes, not merely process compliance. The people of Jamaica will be able to judge through JAMROC's public reporting. JAMROC will be reporting to the people.
Dr. Dana Morris Dixon, Government Senator. Works Minister Robert Morgan says the Cave to Kentucky roadway in Westmoreland was never submitted as a priority for repairs under the SPARK program. He's pushing back against claims by East Westmoreland Member of Parliament Dr. Dayton Campbell that the road remains undone despite being approved under the flagship program.
Just to be clear, I have proof that the road submitted by the Member of Parliament as his priority on the SPARK program does not include the road that the persons are now protesting for, that he is saying he is in solidarity with them. So it's a bit interesting and intriguing that on one hand, he will seek to get roads repaired out of the 10 that is not this road. But then when pressure comes, he seeks to say that I as minister must fix the road when this road was never his priority in the first place.
Robert Morgan, Minister with responsibility for works. The MP adds that SPARK lacks the proper budgetary management to adequately repair the roads in the constituency. But in a release on Friday, Minister Morgan says while he understands the plight of the residents, Dr. Campbell's criticism is misleading and appears to be rooted in political opportunism. Still, Minister Morgan adds that the Ministry and the National Works Agency will continue to assess the Cave to Kentucky corridor and other affected roads in eastern Westmoreland to determine the appropriate intervention. Brace for price increases in the coming weeks and months as Petrojam moves away from its $4.50 price cap on fuel. The move is expected to impact almost every facet of Jamaican consumption, including necessities like food and transportation, as businesses are forced to adjust. At least 2 players in Jamaica's economic supply chain are anticipating things will be tough in the short term as the conflict in the Middle East continues to negatively impact global oil prices. CEO of the Seprod Group, Richard Pandoy, says the company is now in a wait-and-see mode to see what, if any, price adjustments will be necessary.
The reality is that we don't know what the release of the cap is going to entail. If you notice, this week, Petrojam actually had a price reduction. So, it's really a function of what they're buying at versus world market. So, we fully understand why they want to reflect the realities up or down, and therefore, no real issue with them. Obviously, it could be painful if it's going up. But let's say that, at this stage, we just have to watch the cost and see what happens.
Richard Pandoy, CEO of the Seprod Group. President of the Medium, Small and Micro Enterprise Alliance, Antoinette Hamilton, says the simple law of supply and demand will see Jamaicans face a stark reality in coming days.
The forces of demand and supply, that will always cause businesses to respond. So if prices increase, then we'll have to expect an increase in prices as well from our businesses, because they won't be able to absorb all of the rising costs. While they may try to absorb some, what I'm getting from them is that consumers should also brace for increases from small businesses as well in response to increasing input costs that may come from suppliers here in Jamaica or as a result of increasing transportation costs.
Antoinette Hamilton, president of the Medium, Small and Micro Enterprise Alliance. Those are the headlines at 6. I'm Mahiri Stewart. Sports is next.
Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, is a financial reporting firm that delivers accounting and compliance services on time. Call us today at 876-908-0486-7. Email us at clientservices@cocnjamaica.com or visit our website at www.cocnjamaica.com. COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies, including plugs, switches, panel boards, and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer, and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
From the biggest tracks to the biggest energy, Nationwide keeps it moving. If you love the vibes, come and lock in with us for real.
World boss, leave a prison could stop me.
Join the Nationwide 90 FM Family Club today on Patreon.
Practice. God, me say you watch you off, me practice.
Good evening with your sports report. I'm Alex Raby. We start with some track and field as the eyes of the global athletics community will be fixed squarely on the Botswanian capital, Gaborone, this weekend when it hosts the 8th World Relays at the country's national stadium.
Jamaica will be involved in all 6 relay heats on Saturday's opening day, which gets underway with the mixed 4x100 meters starting at 7:21 a.m. Jamaica will run from heat 3 with Akeem Blake handing over to Tina Clayton and Kadrian Gorson on the third leg and Atia Clayton on anchor. The top 2 in each of the 3 heats and the next 2 fastest times will qualify for the final and the World Championships in Beijing, China next year. The mixed 4x400 meters will be at 7:40 a.m. with Jamaica running from 2 with the likes of the Netherlands, Poland, China, Nigeria and Japan. The women's 4x100 meters will follow at 8:05 a.m. with Jamaica battling Botswana, France, Nigeria and Belgium in heat 3 for one of the 2 automatic spots. Olympic double spin champion Elaine Thompson-Herah told a press conference on Friday that despite the strength and depth of the Jamaican squad, the only ambition on Saturday is to get into the final.
World record is something that I don't really penetrate much on. Once we get the good weather, the good exchange, a good button pass, I think anything is capable on that day. And I don't think we're looking at a world record right now. If it comes, but we just want to have a fun day. Exchange is good, button is passed, we go to the line safe. I think that's an important part of it right now, but I don't think world record is in the book right now. It's just good to have fun and to qualify.
The 33-year-old sprinter acknowledged she is still working her way back to peak condition following recent challenges.
I'm feeling good. I don't think I'm where I want to be yet. I'm being patient with myself. It's an off-season for us, not a championship, which we have Commonwealth. But for me, particularly, I'm just taking it step by step, not rushing anything, not applying no pressure. Once the pain is gone, Elaine is capable of doing anything. I ran a couple of days ago. It felt great. Feel like I haven't done anything pretty much. And I think I have a lot more.
The men's 4x100 meters is set to go off at 8:37 a.m. with Jamaica in Heat 2, alongside Spain, Germany, Canada, and Belgium. The women's mile relay is scheduled for 8:55 with Jamaica in Heat 3, while the men's equivalent will go off at 9:05, Jamaica running out of Heat 2.
Now, World Athletics President Lord Sebastian Coe says the organization will not strangle innovation following the debate around the so-called super shoe, which helped Sebastian Sawe become the first person to run on a competitive marathon under 2 hours. The 31-year-old Kenyan won Sunday's London Marathon in 1 hour 59 minutes and 30 seconds, writing himself into history and breaking a barrier once thought by many to be impossible. Sawe, Ethiopia's Yomif Kejalcha, who also ran under 2 hours, he finished 10 seconds behind Sawe and Tiket Asifa, who set a new world record time as the winner of the women's race. All wore the Adidas Adizero Adios Pro Evo 3 shoes in London. Sawe thanked Adidas for making what he said were the best shoes he had worn, particularly highlighting how very light and stable they are. The first super shoe to weigh under 100 grams, Adidas claimed their technology improves running economy by 1.6%. Now to some cricketers. Tournament director for the Caribbean Premier League, Michael Hall, revealed that the Jamaican Kingsmen will have the right to select the first 3 players in the upcoming draft to bolster their squad with local talent. The draft for the 2026 edition is set for May 15.
Because there are a new team coming into the league, we are giving the Kingsmen an opportunity to make first 3 selections of the draft. And with those first 3 selections, they can pick any Jamaican player who has been registered for the draft. Okay? When they pick these 3 players, they can put them in any open salary slot, right? You know, the squads are 17 persons, listed from 1 to 17, and each slot has a particular salary, highest at number 1 and lowest, at 17. If they pick these players, and the player was a member of a team from last year, where they put those players, they will have to make sure that their salary is no less than what they made in 2025.
Now, under the new rules, each franchise will assemble a 17-member squad to include 9 senior West Indies players, 5 overseas players, and 3 breakout league players. Hall also explained that the right to match rules will not apply to the Jamaica Kingsmen franchise.
Teams have what is called a right to match option. So, a team may say, I select such and such a player, and the team that they were on last year, that team may say, I'm exercising my right to match and block them from doing so. That will not apply to the Kingsmen. When the Kingsmen pick those Jamaican players, no team can object or exercise a right to match. The one caveat is that when the Kingsmen are picking these Jamaican players, they cannot pick more than 1 Jamaican player who was on any team last year.
Michael Hall. Now, teams can directly sign 5 overseas players outside the draft, but only 4 can play in the final 11. 39 matches are scheduled in the tournament that runs from August 7 to September 20. Now to football, as defending champions Fraser's Whip are expected to maintain their dominance when they travel to face Mile Gully in the Jamaica Women's Premier League on Saturday at the Mile Gully Community Centre. Fraser's Whip have been in imperious form this season, sitting comfortably atop Zone B and the overall league standings with a maximum 24 points from 8 matches. The opponents, Mile Gully, have struggled to find consistency and currently sits 5th in Zone B with 4 points. In Zone A, leaders Onyx Gardens will take on second place Cavalier in what promises to be a competitive encounter at the Alpha Institute. Elsewhere, Proven Girls will host UWI Women at the York Sports Complex, while Real Mona entertain Wi-Fi United at Mergrove High School. Other fixtures will see Los Perfectos going up against Real Mobay, while Federal United face Springer United. All matches are scheduled to kick off at 3:30 p.m. And Leeds United have confirmed their place in the English Premier League for another season after beating already relegated Burnley 3-1 on Friday at Eland Road. The win moved Leeds up to 14th in the standings with 43 points with 3 games to go in their season. Meanwhile, Arsenal have a chance to open a 6-point gap at the top on Saturday when they host Fulham in a London derby at the Emirates starting at 11:30 a.m. Jamaica time. The Gunners are at the top with 73 points, but they have played a game more than fellow title chasers Manchester City. Elsewhere, Brentford will host West Ham, who are still fighting relegation in what promises to be a competitive London clash. Newcastle United are set to entertain Brighton in a fixture that could have implications for European qualification spots, while Wolverhampton Wanderers will face Sunderland as teams continue their push for crucial points across the table. And finally, in horse racing, the Todd Pletcher-trained Renegade will start 4-1 favorite in the 152nd run for the Roses, the Kentucky Derby, set for Saturday at Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky. Renegade will break from post position 1 in the 20-horse field, which will feature some of the world's best 3-year-olds thoroughbreds. Aboard will be top Puerto Rican jockey Irad Ortez, who is seeking his first Derby victory.
I mean, they all are very nice. Unfortunately, we can ride only one, and unfortunately, because they are also talented, and we ended up in Renegade, and I wish I could ride all of them, but it's impossible. You have to only ride one, so it was a very tough decision for Steve, and I, we are a team, but I mean, let him do his thing, and I'm just happy and positive and try to have a good trip and have the right horse. It's what it is. I just try to don't think about it. I don't know how I'm gonna react, honestly, if I cross the wire in front. It's so important race.
Ortiz says preparation leading up to the race, known as the most exciting 2 minutes in sports, has been good.
We try to stay busy. Steve do an amazing job. Have a huge support from a lot of owners, especially from Brad, honestly, and all of them here in the backside. I love that. I've been my second time, probably this is gonna be first year full time around here, and I can explain how good they've been to me in a short time. So I'm happy to be here and looking forward to keep going. Keep going forward, keep learning, keep going forward. I'm so happy to be here.
Irad Ortiz. I'm Alex Swiby, and that's your sports.
Enough power tool, big to small. Jack on my figure, dig the wall.
Up a Total Tools.
Weed whacker figure, trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand.
Total Tools.
We rent them, sell them, and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When you say home improvement, landscape construction, a Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option.
Total Tools, located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Slive Road, Kingston.
And lot C6 Jacksaw, St. Anne's Bay. Call us today.
If you've ever called in, shared your story, or got help on this show, then you're already family. Now make it official. Join the nationwide 90 FM Family Club today on Patreon.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Come into the parlor, there's a welcome there for you.
Welcome to the Mayor's Parlor with Desmond McKenzie.
From 1 to 6 p.m. every Sunday, you'll now get more of your favorite vintage music.
Put your head on my shoulder.
Nationwide 90 FM will transform your Sunday into a musical time machine that will take you way back.
Come with me. Let's go back in time.
This magic moment.
Journey into yesteryear with Desmond McKenzie in the Mayor's Parlor.
I've got the music to jog your memory and make you smile.
Put your sweet lips a little closer to the phone.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy the best in vintage music.
Coming to the Mayor's Parlor every Sunday between 1 and 6 p.m. here on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media.
This is not just a radio show. This is a lifestyle takeover. Ready to level up your home and your mindset? Tune in to the Design Studio with Karen Booker, your design diva, where bold ideas, refined interiors, and powerful living collide. We're bringing you next level interior design, real decor fixes in What Would Karen Do? Transformation secrets inside Design Lab, and mindset elevation in Thrive 360. Because this is more than design, this is lifestyle. From stunning home tours to confidence building conversations, we're designing rooms and redefining success. Catch the Design Studio Saturdays at 1 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM and streaming live on YouTube at Nationwide 90 FM Live. Design bold, live elevated, thrive fully.
Turn up the heat with Hot Listing, Nationwide 90 FM's new on-air and online classifieds feature. If you have a car for sale, room for rent, or yard sale come up. If you look at work or need stuff. If you provide a service, make it a Hot Listing, Nationwide 90 FM's new on-air and online classified segment. Your listing plays again and again. From morning till evening. You sing it, we play it. You say it once, Jamaica hears it all day, every hour. Contact our sales team now at 876-630-1210 or sales at nationwidenewsnetwork.com. Hot Listings on Nationwide 90 FM, a new revolution in media.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. Good evening. It's now time for the nation's business. Again, I'm your host, Siobhan Campbell, and we now turn to matters of the environment because the long-running dispute over proposed mining in the Dry Harbor Mountains came to a decisive head in the Supreme Court on Thursday. This after Jamaica's Constitutional Court struck down a controversial environmental permit and halting the project. In a landmark ruling, a three-judge panel declared the 2020 permit granted to Bengal Development Limited unconstitutional, void, and of no effect, siding with St. Anne residents who argued the approval threatened their constitutional rights. The case was brought by 8 claimants who challenged the decision to allow mining at Rio Bueno in the Dry Harbor Mountains in Discovery Bay. The defendants named in the lawsuit were the Attorney General, Bengal Development Limited, and the Natural Resources Conservation Authority, that's the NRCA. The permit was granted after Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness, acting in his capacity as Environment Minister, reversed a previous decision by the NRCA not to permit mining in sections of the Dry Harbor Mountains. In its orders, the Supreme Court granted judgment in favor of the claimants against all 3 defendants and struck down the environmental permit issued in November 2020 and later amended in December of that year. The judges also issued an injunction barring Bengal Development Limited its agents or employees from starting or continuing any mining or quarrying activities on the lands in question. Well, in the meantime, opposition spokesman on environment and climate resilience, Omar Newell, says the PNP has consistently opposed the project.
I welcome this ruling unreservedly. It affirms what the People's National Party has always maintained, that the people of Jamaica have a constitutional right to a healthy and productive environment, and that right is not negotiable. As far back as 2020, we sounded the alarm. When the then government signaled its intention to push this permit through, the PNP stood up and said, not at this cost. The Dry Harbour Mountains are home to endangered species, critical watersheds, and communities that depend on a clean living environment. We were right then. This court has confirmed it.
That's Omar Newell. He's the PNP spokesman on the environment and climate resilience. Well, to discuss this matter further, we have the attorney who brought the suit, that's King's Counsel Michael Hilton, as well as the lead claimant and environmentalist Wendy Lee, alongside the founder of the Jamaica Environment Trust, Jet Diane Macaulay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and good evening to your listeners.
Good evening to you all. Michael Hilton, you brought the case on behalf of the residents. Based on the Supreme Court's ruling, what is your understanding as to what this means going forward for any potential mining, if at all, in the Dry Harbour Mountains?
Well, it cannot continue or begin right now, given the absence of the permit, there being no valid permit in place. Assuming no appeal, no successful appeal, the developers would need to reconsider their plans.
Understood. And in terms of the peculiarity of this case, because I understand the Prime Minister overruled a decision by the NRCA, does that limit the, let's say, the precedent set by this ruling, or could more be interpreted in a more broad sense in other pieces of, in other permits and other scenarios where the matter of the environment becomes a central topic as to whether mining or quarrying is allowed in an area?
That's a very good question. The case is important in two separate respects. One is the one you just mentioned, which is the unique circumstances where the minister overruled the regulatory body. And so a lot of the case deals with how, if that is to take place, that kind of overruling, what the minister would have to prove, and therefore the limits on minister's power to overrule. But the case also deals very broadly and very extensively with the right, with this new, relatively new, right to healthy and productive environment, and the right to not have it breached. And that ruling and that explanation will be relevant to other matters, other actions by the regulator, other applications for permits that have nothing to do with ministerial involvement. So it's a very strong precedent.
Understood. We're up on a break, ladies and gentlemen. Please stay with us. And when we come back, we bring you in Wendy Lee and Ms. Macaulay. Please stay with us.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is...
It's 6:30. Welcome back, listeners, viewers. We're talking the environment, that very big claim brought by Michael Hilton on behalf of residents over there in St. Ann and the Dry Harbour Mountains, concerned about the mining activity of Bengal Limited. Well, that matter is now settled in the court. As Michael suggested, we might see an appeal, but at the moment it's settled in the court that the license granted by the government for mining activities and quarrying activities in that area is now null and void and without any rule attached to it. In order to discuss this further, we have with us the lead attorney, Michael Hilton, as well as the lead claimant and environmentalist, Wendy Lee, and the founder of Jamaica Environment Trust, Jet Diana McCauley. And I want to bring you in, Wendy Lee, as one of the claimants, and I believe a resident in the area. What does this mean for you specifically in terms of what has been set down by the court?
Well, personally, I have been involved for many, many years in trying to protect that area because it has long been recommended for protection, and its high biodiversity and its other, features are well documented. And it's also, it is earmarked in the St. Anne Development Order as and specifically described and earmarked for protection. So, it means a lot to me that this beautiful area that I have known for my entire life, and it's beloved by many, many people, is now going to be protected. And let me just say, I hope it's protected from anything that is going to disturb the ecology and the landform and the scenic value, because that's what the development order says. So not just mining, And then it also means that these rights are not just for me and the local people. It was made clear in the judgment that these rights are for all Jamaicans. They are our constitutional rights, and it's not just for a healthy environment. I think we tend to stick on that term, but it is also that we have a right to the protection of our ecological heritage, which is a little bit different. It is the natural heritage that we pass down to our children. Please excuse all the bird sounds in my background.
You're coming through loud and clear. No need for that.
Okay. But I have a peanut gallery too.
But tell me, Wendy, as I understand it, there were some conditions attached by the minister, that being the Prime Minister, in terms of what Bengal would be allowed to do, and in an attempt, I suppose, to appease the residents and those concerned about the environmental impact. And it would seem that those conditions did not find favor with you as a claimant and the other claimants, and now it would seem those conditions did not find favor with the court either. What was lacking in terms of those conditions put down by the government limiting what impact Bengal could have on the environment during those activities?
Okay, well, first of all, it's not just the claimants. The conditions were viewed as inadequate and totally unrealistic by the Forestry Department and also by the NRCA, by the technical people. You cannot mitigate the impact of blasting and mining on a precious ecological area. It's irreversible damage that you are causing. And in fact, the Prime Minister gave them the permit or approved the permit. And then, the conditions were, he said, well, make the conditions that make this possible, but it can't work that way, And as one of the judges said, which is such a very good way of putting it, a condition that cannot realistically be fulfilled is not a safeguard. So, those conditions were not going to be adequate. And they also conflicted directly with the defendants, the Bengal Development's own plans. They stated that after the mining, they were going to totally develop the site. In fact, they mentioned something about taking it down to sea level, which was certainly not going to, fit in with any of the rehabilitation conditions. So it was irrational as far as I can see. They did not make sense, and there was no evidence that any of the mitigation measures would have protected the environment or made anything better. So
interesting. And Diana McCauley, you've always made that point about when the environment clashes with the economy, it seems far too often the economy wins out in the end. In this instant cases, it seems it's the reverse. What say you?
I don't like the framing that is so frequently done. It's hurled at us as being anti-development, and I think this case, the judgment, which is a really transformational and groundbreaking judgment, and I congratulate everyone involved. makes it clear that it isn't, that they are not against development. The court is not against development, but the development that destroys the environment cannot go ahead. And the way we develop has got to also protect the constitutional rights that all Jamaicans have to a healthy and productive natural environment free of abuse of the ecological heritage. So there are other constitutional cases that are in court, but this is the first one that I'm aware of where this judgment has been handed on. Extremely strong. And I've always thought the language in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms was comprehensive, and I'm very glad to see the courts interpreting those words.
Understood. But tell me, Diane McCauley, you believe that this ruling, as narrow as its scope is in this particular area, can now extrapolate to other cases, as you suggest, that are going through the court system, and judges will now take a look at the precedent set here?
I'm not sure about this. That's more a question for Mr. Hilton. I'm not sure about cases that have already been heard, but definitely cases in the future, this will be a precedent that other judges and other courts will look at. Not just here, the judges in this case looked at what had happened in other countries, and so this will be a precedent not just for us but for other countries facing similar situations. Yes, it's wide-ranging, it's very strong, it's very comprehensive. I'm hoping it is going to bring about well-needed and radical change.
And I guess that's a good way to bring you in, Mr. Hilton. Casey Hilton, when we talk about the right to a healthy environment, I don't know if it's the right that is foremost on the minds of Jamaicans, especially when we talk about a country that's always had a more inclined view of concerns about things, the immediate concerns such as crime, the economy, etc. When we talk about what the environment plays, and although Diana doesn't like that framing, when the economy becomes in conflict with when the environment becomes in conflict with economic development, do you see this now, this precedent set down by the court, will impact the way Jamaicans think about that relationship, and as well as potential other environmental breaches that may be on the backs of minds of people of a similar stripe, to say that their right has been breached?
I think it will, and I'll tell you why. It's not only a precedent in a legal sense, but one of the things that the court, and I think I can say that they seem to have been at pains to do, is to explain in language that the ordinary non-lawyer could understand what the right is about, what the court's approach would be and should be, and how they're dealing with this case. The language of this judgment, obviously there's a lot of legalese, which necessarily must be there, but there is language that I think will explain to non-lawyers what this case was about and what the court had in mind when it came to its conclusions about this environmental right. And they address head-on the point you make. There's not a conflict between development and environmental concerns. These are things that need to go on hand in hand and can go.
Yes.
And, I think for all these reasons, it's both a strong judgment and one that will be helpful in other areas and in other matters.
And Wendell, going forward, do you think this ruling will give the government pause when it takes into consideration handing out licenses for whatever type of economic activity in sensitive areas?
Well, I certainly hope so. I mean, in terms of the EIA process and development decision making, this judgment shows that it's not enough to go through the motions, to have the public meeting, get the input, and then make a decision completely unrelated, The decision must be rational and it must be justified in the context of their obligations to protect the environment and ecological heritage. As we used to say in the early days of the environmental movement, if it's not sustainable, it's not development, And, I kind of take issue when you say that people are more concerned about the economy. But if you don't have water, if your air is choking you to death and the dump is on fire, these are some of the critical issues that are, the environment is fundamental to our quality of life. So, yeah, you need to have money, but you also need to eat, drink, and breathe in a healthy environment. So I think we do care about the environment.
Understood. And Diana McCauley, because she brought it up and it was on my mind, the Riverton dump and the frequent fires there. Do you see a similar scenario where a case could be brought based on the ruling here?
Yes, I think they all the dumps, not just Riverton, but our dumps island-wide, none of them meet the requirements for a sanitary landfill. And the ones that burn frequently have caused public health impacts. Yes, of course, those are also breaches of constitutional rights to a healthy and productive environment. It is not easy to bring a legal case against the state, though. And that is why I really salute the people involved in this. And it takes money and it takes time. So that is a constraint. But I believe that the rights that we have that are guaranteed in the Constitution exist, but they only exist if we're prepared to assert them. And going to court asserts them. Going to court gets the courts to, interpret the language, to make decisions about it that help to guide what happens in the future. So I think there are any number of similar cases that breach constitutional rights that could be the subject of court action.
I hear. Michael Hilton wanted to come in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to what Diana just said. It is very difficult for citizens to bring any court case, and especially one against the state, that is going to be fought with. This case has taken years, and I think it's the 6 years it was in the court.
Yes.
Gone to the court of appeal. There were attempts to strike it out. It's a difficult process. And I want to particularly recognize the contribution of the public defender. That office brought together the people and brought together this case. And I know has assisted residents in other types of cases as well. It's a very necessary public body. And I'd like to salute them for the work that they have done in this matter.
Michael Hilton, as we wrap up here, something came to mind that I want to preface this case with the issue of the NARA, the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority, because one of the issues that was of contention in both chambers of parliament actually was this matter of a step-in clause where the minister can come in and essentially give the CEO of NARA the right to just go against a decision taken by one of those regulatory bodies. Now, in the case of this ruling brought down by the Supreme Court, do you think it now strengthens a case against those kind of step-in clauses given to the powers of ministers to essentially override an authority which has been established to put down regulatory frameworks?
Good question. So, this case did not suggest that there's anything unconstitutional as such about such clauses, or that there's anything wrong with legislation permitting that kind of power. My own view is that there is a matter of governance. That kind of power is wrong and ought not to be encouraged. But that's different from saying that it's in itself unconstitutional. And so I wouldn't be going that far. And so I don't know that this case necessarily supports that view.
But it would suggest...
I'm choosing my words very carefully.
I understand. But it would suggest, though, that when a minister makes that decision to step in, so to speak, they must now do it with a very seriously considered position. It cannot just be on the basis of something willy-nilly.
No, it says that very clearly. Very clearly.
That's Michael Hilton, King's Counsel. He was the lead attorney on this groundbreaking case between residents of St. Anne in the Dry Harbor Mountains and Bengal Developments Limited alongside the government of Jamaica over the mining license for that area. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Hilton, alongside lead claimant and environmentalist Wendy Lee and founder of the Jamaica Environmental Trust, Diana McCauley. I thank you all three for joining us, and we await to see where this case goes, if it does go to appeal, and what the potential decision there is. Thank you all for joining us.
Most welcome. Thank you very much.
We now take a quick break, listeners, and then when we come back, it's time for Around the World.
Every professional reaches a moment when growth calls. A promotion, a new opportunity, a bigger vision. At Mona School of Business and Management, our globally competitive graduate programs, including the internationally accredited MBA, are designed for ambitious professionals who are ready to lead. With flexible delivery options that fit your lifestyle, advancing your career is within reach. Learn from world-class faculty. Connect with influential leaders. Transform your future. Visit discover.msbm-uwi.org and apply online for a graduate degree. MSBM, Global Knowledge, Regional Solutions.
Hey yo, listen up. Don't wait for the symptoms start show. HIV test free. Make sure you know. Me take my test. Me get the news. Me take my meds. Me can't lose. Family there, support there too. We strong, we bold life, I live right through. Live bold, test early. Test the HIV. Know your status move surely. I'm top it up. Me take my test. Me get the news. Me take my meds. Me can't lose. Free testing is available at health centers island-wide.
A message by the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies, including plugs, switches, panel boards, and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer, and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Welcome back, listeners. It's time to go around the world, and we're going to South Africa, where thousands of South Africans marched in an anti-immigration protest accusing illegal immigrants of taking away jobs, healthcare, housing, and public services this week. Migrants in the country's capital, Pretoria, were urged to exercise heightened vigilance during the protests amid fears of xenophobic attacks. Ghana's High Commission advised its nationals to close businesses and keep a low profile, while the head of the Nigerian Union of South Africa told its members to remain indoors. Anti-migrant sentiment has gained political currency in recent years, with some believing foreigners are taking jobs and unfairly benefiting from public services. But the president said citizens should not allow their concerns to breed prejudices and hatred toward our fellow Africans. Condemning recent attacks on foreigners, President Cyril Ramaphosa used his Freedom Day address on Monday to also remind his country of their debt to other nations on the continent in supporting their struggle against the racist system of apartheid. More in this report from the SABC News.
We're joined by the Government Communications and Information System Chief Director for Media Engagement, William Baloyi. William, this is a recurring problem in South Africa where tensions flare up between foreign nationals and South African citizens. And typically what is the cadence of the government in these times is to call for peace and to call for calm, and but no real programmatic stuff are being done as far as active interventions to quell tensions between governments. What is the government actually doing other than calling for peace to make sure that there is some level of understanding between discontent South African citizens and foreign nationals living in the country?
No, thank you very much. I hope I'm audible.
Very audible.
Thank you very much. Let me indicate, one, that South Africa is a democratic country, and we have one of the best constitutions, which has made also the freedoms to be enjoyed across. But secondly, we are the economic hub. So we are the most desired country in the continent. Many people come to South Africa for economic opportunities and so on. But now, what we need to do, as people have shown on the streets, is for us to intensify the measures that we're doing. For today, as I'm speaking to you, we have actually deported more than 500,000 illegal immigrants that are coming into the country. But now that is just a spit on a hot iron if you don't intensify your border management authorities. And up to thus far, we are making very, very strong moves to make sure that it's not easy to access our borders.
William,
but secondly, and most importantly, is the issue of how to control the situation of illegal immigrants in the country. Hence, we have announced 11 more posts of inspectors that will be going to employers to check who is employed there, and then we'll be doing it in a multifaceted approach, where then when we found that people are here illegally, then the law enforcement will take care of.
Just a quick question to that, and I do want to interject there, I apologize. The problem is beyond just illegal immigration and those who get into the country undocumented. The conversation which those who are discontent on the ground raise is that they believe foreign nationals, whether here legally or illegally, documented or undocumented, are depleting the resources of the state, resources that are meant to go to South African nationals. That's the first argument they make. And the second argument is that they're outcompeting them in an already constrained job market, to some of the points you were speaking there about being employed in service sector in jobs where, for instance, they do not have the requisite permits for. That notwithstanding, the discontent is beyond government deporting or not deporting. The discontent is about the share of resources, and many of these groups and splinter groups within them are making the argument that all foreign nationals must be deported, not just undocumented foreign nationals. It seems to be rather a problem of social cohesion more than it is an implementation of existing laws. To the problem of social cohesion, what has the government done to address that at its core?
Firstly, I need to indicate that as South Africa, when we became a democracy, we spoke about integrating people who came into the country. We don't have camps, we integrated them within communities. But secondly, the population has grown. When we started in 1994, we were close to 39 million. Now we're talking about 63 million people, which then also have a constraint on the resources. But be that as it may, there is then the competition for scarce resources, which government has put in place interventions of making sure that we grow the economy, we call for more investment, but also we are encouraging the issue of small business. But as we have indicated, the issue of social cohesion, to show that to firstly respect the law, but make sure that you also work with the law enforcement, but also to appreciate that as South Africa, we are a destination of choice. And the question is now, how do we make sure that we relate with each other in a humanly manner, but we are able to also make sure that we work with authorities where acts of dismina are there, acts of criminality, acts of corruption, that we work very closely with the law enforcement.
Interesting discussion there over in South Africa. And, you know, listeners, let's remove the word South Africa and replace it with the United States, where similar discussions have been had over the years, because immigration and the nature of illegal immigration into the United States is very much a big topic when it comes around to the electorate of the United States, whether it is for or against. And you recognize that the United States is not unique in terms of having that problem. When you have a globalized world as we do now, this is always going to be a point of friction particularly between those of, I want to say, lesser means in an economy in any country when you have workers coming in from outside, be it illegal or otherwise, and there then creates a perception as to forcing those of lesser means within your country to compete with those coming from outside. You're always going to have that friction. And in this world space that we live in, it's going to be a challenge that many governments will have to deal with at some point. And I think we have to deal with that in a way where we don't automatically dismiss the concerns raised as simply just being racist or otherwise xenophobic propaganda, because it's your citizens that essentially feel the brunt. And those who often defend the case for people just essentially traversing borders willy-nilly are the ones who are, I want to say, are more isolated from it, as in their social status and their position in the economy in terms of their wealth puts them in a position where they don't have to deal with the recriminations of that problem becoming unfettered. I will not put it any stronger than that. But I think it's a point in the increasingly globalized world that I think even here in Jamaica that we may at some point have to deal with. It's going to become a fractious issue, especially in a scenario where we are finding out that our own labor pool is not growing to the demands that the economy is creating jobs. And I think inevitably here in Jamaica, we're going to have that discussion as well. And I'm very curious to know how we are going to deal with it. Is it going to matter that we're saying people who have those concerns are being xenophobic? Are we going to try to quell those discussions as racist? It's going to be an interesting topic when it does arise here in Jamaica, and I do suspect it will in the near future. But that's where we have to leave it, listeners. Thank you for joining me at Nationwide at 5. Please stay tuned for the comments section just in a few minutes with Mahiri Stewart and Shalois Michael. Thanks to our technical operator, Andrew the Glenn, the big man Bugs Anderson, as well as our super producer, Dana Davey, and my favorite news editor. She doesn't like when I name her, but thanks to Cara Powell, my favorite news editor, who also leads my favorite news and production department here at Nationwide News. It has been a pleasure and a privilege, and I'm Siobhan Campbell signing off for Nationwide at 5. Have a good evening and a good Friday.
Not a mercy.